Star Wars fans. This is Purple Wabbit, hating you from a galaxy far, far away.
So today, before we start, I'm just going to say that I have a lot of video material that doesn't belong to me, and a lot of it belongs to other content creators, YouTubers. Big thank you to all of them. I've used part of their material to build the argument that I'm going to present to you today, which I hope you will enjoy, and I want to know what you think about it as Star Wars fans, and if you think it works and you like it. And it's about, obviously, what species Yoda is from. Now, if you even pretty new or fresh to Star Wars and even just approached it by Hollywood movies, the first three already tells us that Yoda is very, very old. And let's start with that. So this is one of the few things you do know about Yoda when you enter into the movie, and it might be a surprise. The species to which he belongs to is actually unknown. Now, if this is just to us, like the readers from another galaxy, or also for the general public within that galaxy, is not specifically said. However, and there is information that conflicts obviously between canon and non-canon. We only have 2 Yoda species when it comes to official canon coming from the movies, but if we take the Clone Wars and other things, and even Star Wars, The Old Republic, and KOTOR, we have a few more. Now, before we get into which other characters are from the species in the Star Wars universe, let's look a bit about what we know generically about Yoda. So Yoda is, he says, he has trained Jedi for 800 years when he meets Luke Skywalker. And, well, I mean, unless he started teaching when he was very, 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 very small, he must be a bit older than 800 years, just for starters. Then we have Yaddle. Yaddle is a female member of the species, and as you can see, is featured in Phantom Menace.
A ship? Afraid, are you? No, sir.
Here instead we have Master Oleg, Master Oleg, which appears in the video game Star Wars The Old Republic. Much to say about him. But he's there, and this is some 3,000 years before Luke Skywalker, which is the important part. More pertinent to our discussion than Master Oleg is Master Vandar. Master Vandar featured in Knights of the Old Republic, a video game which was sequentially before SWTOR, and Master Vandar is some 4,000 approximately years before the Battle of Yavin, so Luke Skywalker. This is the oldest member of the species that we know of in Legends material, but as we said, there is already another in canon Yoda species featured in the Phantom Menace, Yaddle, or whatever her name is. Now, why is this relevant? At this point, it sort of becomes important to try and establish or understand whether this guy is actually, or these guys are known to the inhabitants or the general public of the galaxy in question, Star Wars. So, in English, in proper English, do the people from Star Wars, like the common people on Coruscant, I can't pronounce it, Coruscant, know about the Yoda species? Or even, do they know about Yoda? Or these guys, even if they don't know what species he's from? Well, I mean, from diplomatic occasions and interactions, at least we can say that Yoda is known by at least the heads of states and politicians and administrators and things like that. So he's not a secret. He's not unknown. He's not kept secret. But my theory is that he is hiding in plain sight. But let's jump right into it, because we don't have much time and there's lots of stuff to cover. Now let's see what the Sith know about cheating death, which is something they actually No, we know how they have devoured into, or at least Sidious tells Anakin. So that's canon. And when it comes to non-Force users, it is actually possible in the Star Wars universe to prolong one's life significantly, specifically through robotics, as we can see in the case of Darth Grievous, who is part of canon, obviously.
As means of keeping Grievous's body alive during his reconstruction. While Poggle the Lesser and his Genosian scientists implanted his brain and eyes into a duranium alloy body, reminiscent of the Krath war droid.
What about Force users? Because of course we have the Force in this galaxy, but it is also possible to cheat death in that case, and it has been, so there are some cases, but let's do this in the most orderly way possible. And so there is the transfer into objects, and we've seen Force ghosts, for example, but is it possible to keep living without being a Force ghost? Let's see the Sith, what they have.
He'd reanimate himself, returning from death to physically re-emerge within Vader's castle. But the importance of Momin's story for Palpatine is clear. In canon, we know it's possible for an ancient Sith to use the dark side, first, to manifest their consciousness in perpetuity through artifacts, and second, to use the dark side to pierce the veil between life and death. Palpatine was aware of the feats of Momin, discussing it with the ancient Sith.
So not generally were the Sith aware of this thing, but so was Darth Sidious. And we have some extrapolation on it, which is not specifically part of canon, but it also comes from recent material, so we can at least use it as
Palpatine discovered the ability to transfer his consciousness to another body after death, and this was known as essence transfer. This force power would give Darth Sidious what appeared to be immortality, but there were several limitations to the clones he planned to transfer his consciousness to. And he would get to experience these limitations firsthand after Darth Vader would kill him during their battle on the second Death Star. Darth Sidious would refuse his own death, and his disembodied spirit would travel to the planet Biss, where his clone bodies had been stored and prepared for this very moment. Despite the fact that his resurrection was successful, Sidious's new clone body would deteriorate and become useless in just a year, forcing him to die all over again and transfer to another clone body. This process was very painful and unpleasant, but had to be done since the clone bodies could only handle the new life force within them for nearly a year. Palpatine would continue to do this for 6 years on the planet Biss without the rest of the galaxy aware that he was indeed still alive.
So first of all, we have body transfer into clones, possibly.
Inside a red Royal Guard-like droid in one of the scenes. Well, the campaign mode of this game takes place after the return of the Jedi, so after Emperor Palpatine was killed. And no, he is not coming back to life as a cyborg or anything like that. These red droids with Palpatine's holographic face are called Sentinel droids, which contained pre-recorded messages and orders from him that he made prior to his death.
Now, this is what we know from canon on Darth Sidious. But if you're a Star Wars fan, and for example you've played KOTOR or Star Wars or SWTOR or know of Darth Revan, then you know about Vishiate, the Emperor of the Sith in the times of the Old Republic. Now this guy, what's important about him is that he's lived 1,000 years by the time we know of him, which is kind of relevant.
For 1,000 years he has taunted and tortured me. Have you, Count? I knew him as Tenebrae, but my low-born son has worn many masks. Vitiate, Emperor of the Sith, Valkorion. His name does not matter. I am Lord Dramath. 1,000 years ago, I ruled this planet when it was a vibrant world.
So, the Sith do know how to cheat death and become virtually immortal, at least for thousands of years or something like that. And the way you do that is you eat up the life of other people en masse. Apparently this is what Nathema is all about. But Potter also gave us some more insight into this specific force technique when the Emperor did it again on Ziost.
Strong on Ziost. Using the outpost's resources, our former Emperor can massacre the defenseless to fuel him. The more powerful he becomes, the more people he can control. He will keep on killing until nothing's left.
When every life on this world has been exhausted, I want you to be alive, to know that I succeeded.
So yes, there is this force ability, quite powerful, but it's a Legends ability from the Legends universe. So when it comes to Star Wars canon, the question is, does Darth Sidious have similar power, if not the knowledge of this specific force technique? And so let's try and weigh Yoda and Sidious. The reason we want to measure Yoda and Sidious is because, well, if we've measured Sidious with Valkorion, and we've sort of established that Sidious might be able to have the same powers, access to power or knowledge or similar things that Visciate or Valkorion, or how you want to call him. And we can see in these scenes, or Star Wars anyway, has established that Yoda and Sidious, or Palpatine, how you want to call him, are, if not equals, more or less very powerful Force users, more than the normal Force user. Let's just leave it at that. I'm using these images to validate this point, but I don't think there's much need to do it. This becomes relevant in understanding if they have access to long life, as Yoda does in this in the version of canon, obviously, have access to very long life. We do know that Sidious is striving for it. That's what he at least tells Anakin. If Darth Sidious is to be taken as one of the most powerful entities in the galaxy in canon, then he is to reason at least of similar power to Valkorion, Visciate, which is the one Sith we know has access to longer life even than Yoda, 1,000 years. Compared to 800, it's not that significant, and that's quite relevant. So let's go back to Yoda and see what we know about the species per se, about what their lifespan, what they are, where they come from, or what characteristics they have.
Of the galaxy often confuse Yoda species with the species known as Lanix, with Jedi Master Evan Peel commenting on this on several occasions as he was confused with the Grand Master. Although it is possible these two different species shared some heritage, they are in actuality quite different from one another. In addition to knowing this, we are also aware that Yoda species were largely carnivorous and led an almost solely carnivorous diet, other than just Grand Master.
Well, I keep on mystery trained.
Banar, meaning that Odd Banar is part of a species that, while living very long, it doesn't live that long, 5,000 years, but being a species that is like a tree-like, it can transform into a tree, and in this form apparently it has a very long lifespan. But as I said, and relevantly to Master Yoda's life, or the length of the Yoda species' life, in Star Wars Legends, there are few other species that have this characteristic, so it's not common, and it doesn't come at a cheap cost. It isn't so cheap to come by generally for the species. It is difficult that the Yoda species is so long living and is so little present in the galaxy. It sort of is at odds, right? Because this other guy, Odd Banar, and his species can do it, but not normally. They have to sort of sacrifice themselves and become trees, where they can't talk or move or do stuff really for a long time. Well, not for a long time, forever. Because this guy doesn't retransform into himself. He just stays as a tree for the rest of his very long life. Yeah, I know. On Ossus, which we're seeing here in the video games. Moreover, wow, what's a smelly word? Let's use it again. Moreover, if very long-lasting life doesn't come by cheap in the Star Wars galaxy for species in general, it doesn't come by cheap for Force users either. I mean, to buy himself 1,000 years of life, Visciate has to eat up a whole planet of people, and not just normal people. The first time he does it, he has to do it with very, very powerful Force users. He invites all the Sith Lords to his planet to sacrifice them, which is kind of drastic, but then he does it again on Ziost. So it's not like, and it's a very secret technique that only he knows, so it's not like something that comes by, just like that. We're actually getting somewhere. What species is Yoda from? So before we actually talk about that, let's look about what are the secrets that the Jedi Order hold in there. Big thanks to Stupendous Way for the following. Check them out, by the way.
Deep within the Jedi Temple, there was a structure that was a massive vault that only the most prestigious Masters of the Order were permitted to access. Within this vault was housed the most dangerous and dark-side-focused holocrons and artifacts the Jedi Order had ever acquired. The most well-guarded rooms within the temple were the Holocron Vault, which hid away not only all the knowledge of the ancient Jedi Order, but the Sith Order as well. This is what the Jedi librarian Jocasta Nu said regarding the Holocron Vault. Beyond this door lies the Holocron Vault. The holocrons contain the most closely guarded secrets of the Jedi Order. Can we go inside? Oh, I'm afraid not, my dear. I haven't been inside myself for years. Only members of the Jedi Council are allowed access. Perhaps the most precious room to all of the Jedi Order was the Tower of First Knowledge. Here, no one was allowed inside without the permission being granted by the Jedi Council directly. Within this room was supposedly also hidden Jedi knowledge and holocrons, and possibly even Sith holocrons. Many have speculated that the Jedi Council opted to keep the most powerful Sith items within this room, as they were the most powerful and wisest members of the Jedi Order. But those were the forbidden rooms of the Jedi Temple. There were a select few rooms that only Jedi Masters could enter, as they contained knowledge and in extreme cases artifacts that were extremely dangerous to the younger members of the Order. The Council hid these rooms away within the temple, as they believed that even if a Padawan were to sense and see an artifact that belonged to the ancient members of the Sith, that these Padawans risked turning to the dark side of the Force. In truth, most Jedi craved power, and because of this, all Jedi Knights were not permitted access to all of the knowledge the Jedi Order had to offer. As this is in part why Anakin Skywalker became so infuriated when he was denied the rank of Master, as if he were a Master, he would have gained access to the holocrons that he believed may have held the secret to saving his wife. And even the slightest bit of dark side knowledge that offered power could theoretically be enough to revive the entirety of the Sith Order. All it would take was a single Jedi to access its power.
So, what could be possibly hidden in these vaults? What secrets might they bring?
Video will cover the Legend's character and how his holocron was discovered by Count Dooku. Let's begin. Known as the immortal god king of Prakith, Darth Andidu was an ancient human male who reigned as Dark Lord of the Sith, and is thought to be the first to the title Darth. The legend of Darth Andidu and his incredible powers remained at large long after his death, and the Jedi Order even attempted to erase all knowledge and reference of the Dark Lord from galactic records. Despite their best efforts, whispers of Andidu's existence still echoed throughout millennia. Ultimately being overthrown and forced to leave Korriban by his bandit pursuance, just prior to his escape, he created a false tomb on Korriban. The sum of his knowledge was recorded in a Sith holocron that he kept to himself. Andidu stored all of his wisdom within a holocron, which also contained his most prized secret, the ability to cheat death by transferring one's essence into another vessel. We can also see this done in the Dark Empire comics, where Emperor Palpatine transfers his soul into many other clones of himself. His holocron survived as well, first uncovered by Darth Bane, then almost 1,000 years later, rediscovered by Count Dooku on Korriban, roughly.
So, if you followed me this far, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible at this point, since thank you for following me, by the way. for listening to this, and give a thumbs up if you liked it, or a thumbs down if you didn't, or share it and all of that, blah blah blah. So my theory is basically that Yoda species is not a species. It's a force technique, and basically it's quite a big deal, and the Jedi know how to prolong their lives very significantly, almost at the level of Vishiate, which is not even canon. I mean, not even Sidious can do that in canon, so only Vishiate can live thousands of years, without gimmicks or cheesing it for 1,000 years straight, either jumping in other bodies or stuff like that. The point is that since nobody knows about the species in this galaxy, or what species it is, and since its main characteristic and advantage is that of being very long-lived, and that we only know of Force users that are belonging to the species, and that all we know, and you've seen so far about what is hidden within the Jedi Temple, and how hard it is, and how much the Sith, and in both canon and legends, have strived to cheat death, then it would be logical for the Jedi, if they knew of a similar power, to keep it as secret as possible, of course, for all the same reasons for which you would in a normal universe without the Force, but even more so with the Force, and so maybe their most proficient and most valuable members eventually get access to this technique, Force technique. Maybe it's a clone, or maybe it's a specific body designed by the Jedi a long time ago to hold the bodies. As we said, Palpatine and the clones in which he jumped in would only live 1 year, so maybe the Jedi made a clone that didn't die right away and that could hold the body of very strong Force users. Or maybe it's just a Force technique that allows all the Force users to become very, very old, and that's why they become so short and their ears are so long. Your ears and your nose grow, and maybe they have to eat something that has a very high matter of green stuff, or whatever it is, pigmentation, and so eventually they become green. They become green hobbits, midgets with long ears. They live very, very long thanks to this Force technique, or body, whichever it is. So yeah, I hope you like this theory. I think I hope you find it plausible. I hope you like it and share it. If you do, leave a comment, tell me what you think. If you don't agree with it, leave a comment, tell me what you think. I'd love to hear some speculation on this. Blah blah blah. The Force be with you.